Hi everybody, welcome back to my channel. I've changed the name from Becky's Chaos, although chaos is all around me at all times, to Sunflower Keepsakes, because that's what I am on Facebook. So it just seemed like I should carry on with that into my YouTube channel. So this week has been a little bit of a disaster area for me. I've not been very well for the most of it. Watching rubbish TV and resting mostly. I did do a little bit of crochet, but because of where I was, it wasn't possible to do a tutorial. Otherwise I would have done that this week. So that's a bit of a shame. I haven't managed to get a tutorial out, but I didn't want to completely and utterly sack it off as being completely wasted, and I mean to carry on the way that I started and make at least one video a week. So I will do a weekly vlog and say what I plan to be getting done for the week, and then hopefully I'll throw out a tutorial as well. Do have a plan of upcoming videos, but if there's anything specific, sewing related or embroidery, crochet, I'm not ready to do the resin because I'm not good enough to be able to do a tutorial on that just yet. Jewelry making, perhaps I might be able to kind of cover you there. So if you've got any ideas, I'd be open to them. Just leave me a message down below and I'll get onto that straight away. And don't forget to hit the subscribe button. I'm getting that done now in case somebody gets bored and sacks me off and then doesn't see my subscribe below thingy at the end of the video. So that's that for this week. So like I said, I haven't completely given up, and I've spent some time writing some things down that I wanted to say and put forward as my sewing tips. And then I've also got some of my sewing tools that I use on a regular basis that I want to kind of get out there and explain a little bit about, in case you haven't got any sewing experience and you're just starting out. So these are my top 5 tips. First of all, when you get your pattern, you need to read all of the instructions before you start, because then you'll have an idea of what's coming up and you're less likely to make a silly mistake due to fibro brain, or peri tamer brain as my friend calls it. Going through the anyway, so yeah, peri tamer brain as she calls it. Right, so back. Read all of the pattern instructions first. That way you're less likely to make a mistake as you're going through the pattern and actually making your item. So that's my first top tip. My second one would be don't skip any steps, even if it may seem silly to you. So if it says to do understitching or to add interfacing or top stitching, there is a reason for it, and it's best not to skip those steps because it will have an effect on your finished item. So follow all the steps and don't miss anything out, but also you need to iron as you go. So that would be my second top tip. So number 3, practice on a scrap piece of your fabric first. So if you have a small piece of fabric left over, like this piece, for example, although this piece is already doubled, so if you take your fabric and fold it in half so that it's how you would be sewing it on the machine. So I suggest that you start on one side and sew all the way down the piece of fabric, and then turn it round and sew back down the other side, just so that you've got a full length of stitches that you can take out of your machine, have a look, say, yeah, that's okay, I'm going to continue doing that, or no, I need to recalibrate my tension, for example. Your tension might be off, or your machine may need rethreading, which comes to number 4. If for some reason your machine has choked, rethread your machine, including the bottom bobbin. So reload it all together with your thread, and then try again. Again, just sew down your piece of fabric and check your stitches. If that hasn't worked, then you could also change your needle, which is often also an issue with when you get loop stitches at the back, or it might be too tight, or punching extra holes in them because your needle's dull. So definitely rethread your machine, including the bottom bobbin. If that doesn't work, add a new needle. If that hasn't worked, then look at potentially tension being off. So that was number 4. Number 5, and this is probably the most important one, and I'm going to read it off my piece of paper because I want it to be how I wrote it. And that is, most of all, we all make mistakes, so be kind to yourself. Take it one step at a time and enjoy the process. Even your mistakes are usually a learnable... oh, there you go, I'm reading it and I still got it wrong. Even your mistakes, we usually learn the most from these, so think of it as a teachable moment. If you can't see it as that, look at it as a quality check. So are your stitches right in length? Are they too tight? Are they too loose? Does it look good? Should I start all over again? You know, just sort of look at the quality of your item. Quite often we make a mistake in where we've put our stitches on whatever it is that we're sewing. Maybe you've stitched up the wrong side, or you've stitched down the bottom instead of the top. You know, all these things can happen, but it doesn't necessarily mean that your work is wrong, or the quality of your work is wrong, sorry. So we can still do good work even though we've made a mistake. So look at it like that. And if you know your work is good, even if you've made a mistake, you can be more confident in yourself, because, all right, so you've sewed the wrong side, but it doesn't mean that your work was bad. It just meant that you sewed the wrong side. So it's not the end of the world. So just take it as a learning experience and then move on from it, because it's not the end of the world at the end of the day, even if you have to start that tiny little bit all over again. You just move on from it and learn from it, and don't take yourself too seriously, I suppose, because these things happen to everybody, and they happen to me all the time. Although for me it's fibro brain, so that's what I blame it on anyway. Fibro brain. So that's my top 5 tips. My top most used sewing tools. Now this one I've been quite looking forward to. So I've kind of done it in an order of how I would potentially use them. So we'll start off with a decent pair of paper scissors. Now, there's no ribbon on these, so I know that they're paper scissors. All my fabric scissors have a ribbon on them or a scrap piece of fabric tied round the handle so that I know they're fabric scissors, but also so that anybody else who knows me well enough to come in this room knows that they are not to touch my fabric scissors. So a decent pair of paper scissors so that you can cut your patterns out. Remember, we don't use fabric scissors with paper. That's a must. Your scissors go blunt faster when you use them to cut paper or card or any of that vinyl stuff or whatever. If it's not fabric, you use your paper scissors. So that's that. Now moving on to my sewing scissors. So these are Eversharp brand. I've had a look last night and I couldn't find them on Amazon, but I do know that that's where I bought these scissors from, or correction, my husband bought them for me for my birthday about 15 years ago. So I'll give you an example of how good they are, because they're still cutting my fabric perfectly. I'll have to hold it up because they're a bit high, but if you have a look, see, beautiful cut. I know that sounds really sad, but as a sewer, anybody that sews will know what I mean by a decent pair of scissors being everything. So they're my go-to fabric scissors. They're, I believe, 8 inches long, and I like the weight of these. They're heavy, so I mean, that's the way that I like my things. I like them to be heavy and tactile. I do have another pair of scissors that are a lot lighter, but I don't like them as much. And I've also got a pair of 10-inch scissors, which I also like. They're different brand. I'm not sure what they are anymore because one pair doesn't have it written on them, and the other pair, because I have two that are almost the same, are from Lidl, and they're brilliant as well. I like those two. I shall find them, because I think the ones in front of me are the ones that I got off Amazon, but I'll find them and then show you how good they are as well, if you're interested. Again, pop me a message down below if that's what you're interested in. So then I have these ones. These ones are for silky, satiny type fabrics. So anything like this piece here, they're supposed to grip it better, so you get a cleaner cut apparently. I bought them because I wanted to try them and see what they were like. These ones are gingham or Ginger. These ones are Ginger. Sorry, I'm getting confused with the fabric. Gingham fabric. Anyway, so these ones are supposed to be for satin and silky fabrics. I can't say for definite whether they work better than ordinary scissors, but I thought I'd give them a go, and they're £30, so they're quite not expensive, I suppose, because I have seen some that are in excess of 50 quid, but yeah, these ones, they're nice to cut with, and what more can I say than that, really? I do like using them, and I do use them fairly regularly because they're in my go-to toolbox. Also, I have a pair of pinking shears, and these ones I use to finish edges. So after I've sewn my seam, or whatever it is that I might be sewing at that time, it's usually a seam, you can then use your pinking shears to finish the edge. Now, I have swapped from using pinking shears in most cases, not all. I use them for fabrics that fray a lot. So rather than using a normal pair of scissors, if I can see that the fabric's going to fray, I'd use a pair of pinking shears because it slows that process down a bit, and it gives you a chance to get all your seams sewn before the fabric frays too much, because that can be a nightmare as well. So I use those for that, but not so much finishing seams in it, whatnot anymore. So whilst we're on major cutting tools for cutting out fabric pieces and patterns, I have these, or this. It's a Cricut rotary cutter. It's a 45mm, so it's a small one. I think it's the small one. It's small in comparison to my other rotary cutter, which is a 65mm, I believe. It's downstairs, and that one's a Fiskars. I do like Fiskars as well for cutting tools, so it's either Fiskars, Ginger, Ever Sharp, and I can't remember what the little brand is, but whatever their brand is for cutting, that's what that is. So they're my main go-to people for cutting tools. I have bought cheaper in the past, and sometimes it pays off, sometimes it doesn't, so it's a bit of hit and miss. There, you can get some decent stuff off Temu. These ones and these ones arrived yesterday. These are snips, or what I call snips, I suppose embroidery scissors as well. I bought these ones because they looked like they had a tight, like a pointier tip on the end, and I'd been after them for a while so that I can get inside of the seams and snip them quickly when I'll think of the word in a minute. Seam ripper. I knew there was something on the tip of my tongue. Seam ripper. So sometimes I'll use a pair of scissors, sometimes I'll use a seam ripper, but that's why I got these ones. They are nice, but the only thing that I would say is this bit here is plastic. It's not metal. So they are very light on the end, and to be honest, I quite like that. It's a firm plastic, it's not bendy or anything, so they should last me, and they do cut nicely. I tested them yesterday after I got it, so see, it went straight through with one snip. So they are sharp. I don't know whether you saw that now because I was looking elsewhere. There you go. A nice sharp snip on the edge there. So those ones were a Temu buy, and these ones were also a Temu buy. I do a lot of my shopping on there. These ones aren't as sharp though, so it is a bit of hit and miss, but these ones are good for yarn and embroidery. Thread, I don't have any to hand at the minute, or I would show you. So they do cut, but not as well on fabric. The other scissors I bought from Temu, which were a bit of a miss, are these ones. So these are I want to say 6-inch pair of scissors. Now, these are also light like those other plastic ones because this has a plastic end, so they are nice scissors. They do cut, but for me it was a bit of a miss buy. See, it goes straight through. There's not a problem there. But like I said earlier, I prefer the heavier end, and these are, to me, it's not well balanced pair of scissors, for me anyway. It's a bit rocky, so I don't use those as often. I haven't decided yet whether I'm going to keep them for fabric or just use them for everyday paper. So that's cutting tools. Next I'll move on to the fabric markers. Now you can use chalk, or some people use wax or a bar of soap. I've seen Catherine Sews uses a piece of white scrap soap, and to me that seems smart because it will wash out in the wash. When you wash your item, it will just wash out, which is great. I prefer pens, and I first started using these. They are the Magic Pen by Madeira. It's a good brand and they work really well, but I am an especially slow sewer. Not always, but if I'm in a rush I can push something out, but I prefer to take it step by step, slowly. So these ones disappear with the air, so it's like if you're taking your time on something, the marks disappear. So you couldn't mark something up and then come to it the next day because all the marks will have disappeared. So I started off with those ones, and because of that, the disappearing act, I moved on to these. So these ones look like gel pens, and they, on Temu you can buy them like this. This one's got white ink in it. Usually you'll get 3 or 4 of the actual outers, you know, the actual pen part. I think this set came with 4 because it came with 4 different colours, so you can put 1 colour in each pen. And they also come with a bunch of refills. Now I don't know how many refills came with it, but I can tell you it was a handful, so rather a lot, and it wasn't expensive. So that's an option to you. I'm going to put those back in their hole, otherwise I'll lose them. But my favourite way of marking fabric is the friction pens by Pilot. So I've moved on to the markers because Catherine Sews, and you'll probably hear me quote her a lot because I love her. She's also on YouTube and absolutely amazing. I love her ethic, which is to recycle and reuse wherever possible. And she is absolutely amazing. She can go down to a thrift shop, buy something that's too small and make it big enough to wear. She's really, really good at thrifting and sort of fixing up the issues with whatever it may be that she buys. But she seems to go into a thrift store and buy fabric, would be the best way to describe it, I guess. Obviously it's in a finished item, but she looks more at the fabrics than she does at the size of whatever it is. And then she just fixes it and makes it her own, and it looks really good. So if you're into thrifting and want to sort of go on to the greener living, I suppose, she's definitely worth a watch. But she uses these marker pens, so I've moved on to those because you get a better line with those, or you can see a better line with those. But I also use the smaller ones, you know, the writing ones. which is ideal for me because I write with these all the time. I've been using friction pens for years, right when they weren't as expensive as they are now. So yeah, I use the friction pens. I think I paid £20 for a set of 12, which isn't a bad price, but look around and see what's best for you, because you might find that wax is better or chalk is better, or soap, or whatever it is that you want to use. That's up to you. But the one thing that you do have to be careful of is that the whatever it is that you've used to mark your fabric comes off, because if it doesn't, you've ruined your item before you've even got to wear it, or use it. So definitely be careful when it comes to fabric markers. Next on my list is a tape measure. This one I got in my Mrs. Quilty box, and I'll talk about those on another day. They're brilliant. I love them. So one side has inches, the other side has centimetres. I work in both. So I used to live in Germany, and they use the metric system all the time. So everything I had was in either grams or centimetres and metres, kilometres per hour instead of miles per hour, all that kind of thing. So it was always centimetres and metres. So for 25 years almost, I was living on the metric system. So then to come here and suddenly have to work with inches was a bit of a mind numbing experience for me. But I now work in inches, which is bizarre when you consider how long I worked in centimetres, but there you go. So there's a tape measure, and I also use these quite a bit. This is like, I think you'd call it a hemming gauge, because you'd sort of work out how much you want to take your hem up, or even how much you wanted to take off your hem. So you can adjust it with this blue thing here and move it up and down, and then you can just chop it off or mark it. I usually mark it and then chop. And then once I've chopped it, I'll move the gauge again to say an inch, and then I know that when I turn it up, if I've got this on the edge and the fabric comes up like that, I know that that is how much my hem would be, and I just go along the piece of fabric, making sure that all the way along is an inch. It's brilliant. Use it all the time. So there's that one, but also there's this one. Now this one's not so good. I've just bought this off Temu, and it's already it came with a like a break in it, so I wouldn't go for a plastic one again, but I do have metal ones lying around somewhere. This one I bought, I thought it was metal when I bought it. I should have checked, but it has a 90-degree angle here, so you can check that your 90-degree angles are there, and it's also got a 45-degree, I think that is. And this one is for cutting the bias, but it's not very big, so it's not massively helpful when it comes to that. But if you want a quick 2 centimetre or 2.5 centimetre, or there's another one here I can't see, but anyway, so if you want a quick gauge, that one's a centimetre. You can use one of these to do the same thing that you did with the metal one. You can do with these as well. But like I said, this one snapped in the post, so I'm not as impressed with this one as I am the metal ones. But I did think I was buying metal. I think somebody's coming to visit me. So those are my main measuring tools. Next are needles. Now, needles are important with any kind of sewing, obviously, for your machine. I only use, hang on, let me pick one with a wrapper on it. So I only use Schmetz. Now these ones are microtext, and it says on there the smallest size is 60 and the largest size is 80. So that's what we would use in the United Kingdom. Underneath is from 8 to 12 size. So they're very fine needles. So you'd use these on finer fabrics. These are actually microtext needles. But all the needles, you can get loads. There's metallic. I'll just run through a couple. Metallic, jersey and jeans needles. For example, the jeans are, I can't see without my spectacles, 90 or a 14. I go up higher than that as well, I do believe. So yeah, you'd use the right needle for your fabric, but there are universal needles which you could probably use with most fabrics. I haven't tried them with jeans. Anything with the, I told you somebody was coming to visit me. Eddie, come say hi. Come on, come say hi. I'd be surprised if he came. He's like the most unsocial cat ever. But we love him. So where did I get to? Oh, Schmetz needles. So you can use the universal. I wouldn't use them with denim, but I would use them with pretty much anything else. But even better than a universal needle is a ballpoint. I learned that by the guy who services my machines. He used to work in a factory, and he knows all this stuff when it comes to sewing machines. So he told me ballpoint needle, and has since told me off for various reasons, including my lack of bobbin winding skills. So definitely watch out with your needles. They say also, whilst I'm here and talking about them, to change them every 6 to 8 hours of sewing time. So I'm quite sure that I sew with mine longer than that, and it's probably why I get so many hiccups along the way. So I'm going to write myself a note to remind myself. Next are point turners. Now these aren't necessarily a must buy, but they are cheap as chips, and I love them. I use them all the time. I used to use a knitting needle or a crochet hook to point out my corners. So when you've sewn your item inside out and then you turn it right side out, your corner is going to be sort of tucked in, and you get a messy sort of corner. And you can get your point turner and stick it down there and poke it out. You don't want to poke it that far because you've gone through your stitches and probably snapped them, so now you have to restitch. But definitely you can get a sharper point out of a point turner. I find I used to stick my crochet hook on my knitting needle straight through the other side of my sewing. So I use these. I like the fact that they've got a curve, so if you're sewing something with a rounded seam, you can use the curve of the point turner to carefully push it out, and it just gives you a sharper edge, and it looks nicer, more professional. So definitely use a point turner. And last but not least, on my sewing must-haves would be a decent iron. I'm not saying buy a steam iron straight off the bat. Mine is a steam iron now, but I've worked up to that, and I started off with a basic one. I've still got my basic one, which I use for iron-on interfacing. That way I'm not getting the glue on the bottom of my iron if I've accidentally put it the wrong way up, or depending on which way you put the interfacing on. Also depends on whether or not you get glue on the bottom of your iron, because if you've got a little bit hanging off the edge and you're sewing it fabric on top with the interfacing underneath, you're going to have the glue facing up, so that's then going to get on the bottom of your iron, which is incredibly difficult to get off, and it leaves a mess, especially if you've forgotten to take it off because you've been busy sewing and you're like, I'll do that later, and then you forget to do it, and you've forgotten the next time you go to use it that there's glue on the bottom. It makes a mess on your husband's shirt for work, and he's not very happy. So yes, a decent iron and an ironing board. I have a sleeve board as well, which I recently acquired. I haven't always had a sleeve board, and I haven't actually used it yet. But I do have a sleeve board. I also have a clapper. I'll show you my design on the front. I did that myself. Can't really see it in this light, unfortunately. Oh, there you go. So it's just sewing is life, I suppose. I just thought it was really cute. I cut that out on my Cricut and then stuck it on myself, just because I was having one of those days. So the clapper, you iron your item, you steam it, and then you put your clapper on the top and press with your clapper as well. Something to do with the steam on your fabric that you've just put on there through your steam iron, and then using the clapper gives it an even sharper edge, and it does look really nice. It does make a difference. I was like, yeah, okay, I'll try it. But you can pick these up fairly cheaply on Amazon. They're not massively expensive. My husband drilled a hole in it for me so I can hang it. As you can see, I have lots of things hanging off my Kallax units. But my room's a mess, but I love it. And as long as it's not too messy, I like working in here. I just have to remind myself to tidy up afterwards, because then it gets too messy and then I don't want to be in here anymore, because it's not conducive to working. So ironing board, iron, clapper, tailor's ham. This is brilliant for ironing curves. So your sleeve joints, for example, seams, even joints. Where did I come up with joints from? You can iron those on it. You can press your curve nicely over the tailor's ham. It's called a tailor's ham because it's for tailors, and it's shaped like a ham. So that would be the last item on my list. My tailor's ham came with a longer one for sticking down sleeves and ironing over the top. I bought that because I didn't have a sleeve board, but now I have a sleeve board, so I use them these in conjunction with the sleeve one more often than anything else. But that's because I acquired the sleeve board. I just haven't got around to using it yet. I haven't used my sleeve ham either. It's not ham, it's more like a baguette, but there you go. Anyway, those are my top most used items for sewing that I have. Are they? Did I show you the pins? I don't think I did. So also pins. So it would be in order. It's paper, scissors, pins or clips, fabric, scissors, and then moving on. That's why I got confused, because I did the scissors all in one go. You need pins. They come in various sizes, lengths. You can get some that are specifically designed for satin. They're more expensive. You can get them by Clover, but they are good for finer fabrics. So I use those quite often. Temu are now selling, I don't think I have one to hand, which would be typical because I have them lying around everywhere, and today I don't. They do like safety pin type ones. They come in pink and yellow, I think. They're quite good for when you're doing tailoring off whoever. So I do use those when I'm taking in something for somebody. That way you're using a safety pin and you're not about to stab your customer. Because I do alterations quite often, but I'm trying to move away from that because it just got repetitive. So any of my favourite customers or recurring customers, you know, people that keep coming back, then I will do things for them, but otherwise I've stopped doing alterations for people. It gets boring after a while, taking up somebody's trousers. And unless you like the person, it's even less nice to do. Oh, 2 hours to bedtime. Okay, so the last item regarding pinning stuff is these. Now these also come in various lengths. This is a long one. It's just a clip, and you can clip your seams down the side, and you can use these instead of pins. It's up to you which you use. I use both. It depends on what I'm sewing at the time. If I need something to be precise and make sure that it will stay in position for longer, I use a pin. Because you can take those out last minute. As long as you get the pin out before the needle goes down, you're good to go. So you can hold the fabric in place for longer than the clips, because as soon as your clip hits the foot, that's when you're in trouble. So depends what you're sewing as to whether clips or pins go first. But I think now I'm done. Sorry about the missing the pins off. I better watch this back in about 10 minutes time, and I have included pins and clips, or I haven't. I'm not sure which. I'll find out in a bit. Anyway, that's all I have to say for today. I hope to have some tutorials done for you next week. In front of me I have most used hand sewing stitches, and then my most used embroidery stitches, and potentially a crochet tutorial. I haven't decided which one I'm going to do yet, or maybe I'll do all three and then just post the one that I fancy posting on that day. Can't hurt to have videos backed up, right? Ready to go? That's a good idea. If I'm having a good day, then I'm going to do more, and then I can post more regularly. So that's the plan. My next tutorial will be my most used hand sewing stitches, and maybe the embroidery stitches as well, because I can carry that on, can't I? Depends how long it is. Anyway, now I'm going. So I wish you a good night. It is 9:05, so I do think it's time for me to wind down, with a nice cup of coffee, and then maybe watch a few more episodes of The Bill, because I'm sad like that. Anyway, I shall see you next time. Take care, and don't forget to hit the subscribe button. Help me out there, guys. I'm trying to grow my community, and I'd love to hear from you. So, bye.